Hi everyone, my name is Baroika. I'm reacting to a video by Imam Tawhidi. He talks about Palestine. Without no delay, let's dive into it.
There's a reality. The Palestinian people have been saying that the Abraham Accords, and by Palestinian people, I mean the Palestinian leaders and their supporters. They've been saying that the Abraham Accords is a betrayal to the Islamic cause related to Al-Aqsa Mosque and the betrayal to the Arab cause of liberating Arab lands from Jewish so-called occupation. The fact is, the Palestinians are not Arabs, and the cause is not an Arabic cause. Arabia begins from the Gulf of Arabia, which you look at the Arabian Peninsula. At the very bottom, you have Oman and Yemen, and moving up, you have the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and all the way up to the Jordan River. That is Arabian land. On the other side of the Jordan River, that is Judea. And Judea goes all the way up to the Golan and even into Syria and comes all the way down to Sinai, which means it enters the northern part of Egypt. That is Judea. That is the Judea we know in our Islamic scriptures. That is what is referred to as the land of Moses and David and Daniel and Solomon and the land of the Torah. And these are the Jewish people that even during the early years of Islam, these are the people that we had dialogue with and we traded with, and they came over to Arabia and they established their tribes, 12 Jewish tribes in Arabia, Bani Qurayza, Bani Qaynuqa, all of these Jewish tribes that were in the region. Khaybar, for example, it's known for its events. So this region is what we know, and its people we know is Judea, and its people are Jewish people. This is where our prophets came from. And the Palestinians are not Arabs. The Palestinians descend from many lineages, from the lineages of the occupants of these lands. The Romans, the Circassians, the Gypsies, the Turks, the Armenians, the other nations that came and went, the Ottomans. These are the leftover groups of people, and they are known as the Palestinians. Even though the name is problematic because Philistine means invader, they've been chosen to call themselves that, and that's fine. But they're not Arabs, which means the cause is not an Arabic cause. If there is a Palestinian who claims he's Arab, then he's indigenous to Arabia on the other side of the Jordan River, and they cannot be indigenous to Judea. Arabs cannot be indigenous to Judea, and Judeans cannot be indigenous to Arab land. Each of us have our own land. We are neighbors bordered by what is now known as the River of Jordan. Therefore, this reality supports the argument that it's also not an Islamic cause, because Islam is not under threat. Jews have not targeted Islam. Judaism doesn't have a teaching that Islam needs to be annihilated or wiped out, or Muslims for that matter. 20% of Israel's population are Muslims. There are, we're looking at dozens and dozens of mosques, 400 imams. All of them enjoy freedoms in Israel. And again, these are Muslims with Israeli passports, which mean they can easily move to many countries in the West and have many opportunities there, except that they choose to stay. And it's disgusting that these Muslims are ignored by the majority of the Muslim world because they're the Muslims of Israel. That's wrong. These are Muslims, they are brothers in faith. The cause is not Islamic cause.
If you're hearing these words,
because again, there is no Muslim consensus. There is no Muslim agreement that the Al-Aqsa Mosque is in Jerusalem. There is a mosque in Jerusalem called Al-Aqsa Mosque. But whether or not it is the mosque referred to in the Holy Quran is a whole new debate, because when the verse came down in the Holy Quran referring to Al-Aqsa Mosque, the mosque in Jerusalem did not exist. The mosque in Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa, did not exist during the time of the Prophet, did not exist during the time of the first Caliph, did not exist during the time of the second Caliph or the third Caliph. The second Caliph established the foundations for that mosque, but then the Umayyads, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, the fifth of the Umayyad dynasty, came and he established that mosque in 705 So we're looking at 72, 73 years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad. So that Jerusalem mosque was never visited by the Prophet Muhammad or any one of his companions. This came back 7 decades later on. So there's a big argument as to whether the name Al-Aqsa, the farthest mosque, actually means a mosque in the heavens, and whether it's a mosque on earth. I mean, there are debates. There are claims that Al-Aqsa Mosque is in Saudi Arabia, 20 kilometers north of Mecca, because we have one of the main historians and biographers of the Prophet Muhammad's life who says that the Prophet Muhammad prayed in Al-Aqsa Mosque in the morning and then prayed in Mecca in the evening. And if you look at the distance, it's sort of impossible to move from Jerusalem to Mecca, in one day at that time. It makes a lot of sense if it's 20 kilometers away. So these are arguments which we're not really agreed upon. Therefore, the Palestinians have a serious predicament. They need to figure out what they want to do. They've been offered a state 5 times, and they have rejected it more than 5 times. And the fact is, and again I say we need to speak with facts, the fact is the Palestinians already have 3 states. Because if you look at geopolitics, what makes a state? What is a state? I mean, what do you need in order to establish a state? You need a head of state, you need a military, and you need an economy. So these are the 2 wings, including the head of state, that make a state. Ministry of Interior and Intelligence and Media and Sports and Culture, and these are extra. What makes a state is a head of state and an economy, right? Some countries don't even need a military. They have alliances like NATO in today's day and age, right? Like Switzerland, for example, don't even need a military. But the main foundations of a state is a head of state and an economy. The Palestinians have that in Gaza. The Palestinians have that in the West Bank. And guess what? The majority of Arabs in Jordan are of Palestinian descent. The king of Jordan is Saudi Arabian, right? He's not of a Jordanian descent. He's Saudi Arabian. He's a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. He's indigenous to Arabia. Jordan was created for that very reason, to make way for the House of Al Saud to be present in the country of Mecca and Medina, and therefore the Kingdom of Jordan was established as a compensation, as a relocation for the kings that ruled the region, and they were the family of the Hashemite kingdom. Now, the Palestinians today in Jordan, they're the majority, and they have everything they need there. They have economy, military, even more. And the Palestinians, the idea that a Palestinian remains a refugee even after receiving American citizenship and 3rd, 4th generation, all remain refugees, that is, it's not realistic, and it's not something that it's not an argument that can be respected. Therefore, they might want to join the Abraham Accords. They might be Palestinians against Hamas and the Palestinians against the regime's interference in the region, but ultimately it is the corrupt rulers of the Palestinian Authority, the corrupt rulers that are governing Gaza, the corrupt rulers living outside of this conflict, enjoying a lavish lifestyle in Qatar and in Iran. So the real decision is with the Palestinians themselves, if they want to continue on this path or not. The Arabs, I guarantee you, the Arabs will not sit by and just let the Palestinians take their time by holding the Arab future hostage. That the success of the economy and the developments and the reform that's happening in Arabia, there's a limit. We have young leaders coming into the region. At one point, they're going to say, listen, this problem was dealt with by our grandfathers and our fathers. We are not going to engage in this. And we see that the first step was the Abraham Accords. Slowly but surely, you're going to have military alliances. You're going to have serious amount of trade. It all depends on the United States of America's attitude towards the Gulf. Because if you're going to be pushing Saudi Arabia towards Iran and Russia, you're going to slow down the Abraham Accords. And that's a given, right? That is a given. But if you continue to maintain good relations with them, there are many factors. We don't need to get into all of the many factors here involved, but ultimately the Arabs will be more patient with the Palestinians, but there will come a time where they will say, listen, we've given you a lot, we fought for you, we've done everything, we've fed you, we've supported you, we've defended you, we've lost lives for you, we've done everything we can for you, but You guys want to stay the way you are, meaning the leaders. That is your problem. We will move on with the rest of the world. AI technology and, the transformation, the rapid transformation of our world will not allow the visionary leaders in the Middle East to continue, with this baggage that is a headache. Yes, we don't speak to terrorists. We don't have dialogue with terrorists. I am absolutely against any dialogue with the extremist terrorists, the Taliban, Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, the regime in Iran. They're all the same Islamist extremist terrorists with a different flavors, Sunni flavor, Shia flavor, but they're all on that same page, and I am absolutely against any dialogue with them. We do not discuss anything with the regime. We don't send them any messages because they are not a legitimate regime representing the people. It is a group of absolute terrorists who will use the West and use every opportunity to continue ensuring that they remain in power, and therefore they need to be removed out of power, at any given chance. So zero dialogue with the regime. When it comes to the uprising and the people's claims, yes, you have to believe those people, because if they're 20 years old and 25 years old and 30 years old, they haven't seen anything other than the Islam presented to them by the mullahs. They haven't seen anything other than terrorism. They haven't seen anything other than war and threats, and the streets are named after terrorists. I mean, you go to France, you go to the European countries, and the streets are named after good people. A road is named after an important lawyer, an important mayor, an important artist, a poet. You go to Iran and look at the street names: Martyr so-and-so, Martyr so-and-so. Everyone's a martyr. You have 20,000 terrorists in one city. All of them have streets named after them. That atmosphere destroys the passion and the self-esteem and the ability of the Iranian people. The Iranian people, they have everything to contribute to this world. They are one of the most successful communities outside of Iran. The art, the music, the education, the scientific contributions that the Iranians can come up with, it is fascinating and really, in some areas, unmatched. And then you have this cult of extremist clerics, crooked, corrupt clerics, who have suppressed Iranian women, suppressed the Iranian people, and they say it's Islam. It's not Islam. It's political Islam. There's a huge difference between Islam and Islamism. Islam is the mainstream religion of the people, and they are the same Muslims who are opposing the regime. The majority of the people opposing the regime in Iran, when they hear the call to prayer, they go and pray. They fast Ramadan. They are Muslims, but they're against an Islamist dictatorship. Islamism is using the religion, or any religion, any message of God, anything sacred, to further their own political agenda. That is Islamism, and they are the terrorists, they're the extremists. They blow, they kill, they behead, they hang, they shoot, they stone. They are nothing representative of God whatsoever.
Do you think Iran is a lost cause? I mean, what could make things change there?
Okay, Iran is not a lost cause. Iran is if we have any hope, really, with any country gaining its freedom, it is the Iranian people. Definitely not a lost cause. That is a country with will, a country with a phenomenal history going back over a millennia. And this is a country that has seen many changes and many partitions and many developments. Iran is not a country that you give up on at all. And how we support them is very easy. Stop strengthening the regime in Iran. That's the first step. Stop inviting them to the United Nations. The regime now chairs a committee for women's rights. And they just held an exhibition in the United Nations about women's fashion clothes. You're killing me? You're kidding me? You don't allow the women to dress in fashion in Tehran, and you come to the the United Nations and he hosts an exhibition of women's clothing? What world are we living in where this makes sense? So no, I think the first step really is strengthening the Iranian people by weakening the regime, and you weaken the regime by cornering them, by isolating them. And if you were to take a look at North Korea, for example, North Korea is totally isolated. The regime is not totally isolated. The regime in Iran is not totally isolated. There is still dialogue, visits, diplomatic relations. That's not how you support the Iranian people. If you really support the Iranian people, and if you are really against theocracy, then the Western world and democracies need to take a firm stance against the regime in Iran totally, deport its ambassadors, recall your ambassadors. There needs to be zero dialogue with them, zero trade, zero alliances. They need to be crippled to the ground. That is how the people will rise without weapons. Without weapons, the people will rise, walk into the government buildings and reclaim their country. As simple as that. The Iranian people are not afraid of guns or anything like this, especially when you have the military that is aware of the situation. I mean, you take a look at the current situation in Iran. It's not very stable. Not very stable in Iran. Every now and then a military leader gets replaced and shifted to another place because there could be a military coup in Iran. All what it needs is for the few military leaders to be convinced that the government will collapse unless there's a coup. And again, we call on to those, the military commanders that have some sense of consciousness left, who have some humanity in them, to side with the people instead of shooting at the people. And we saw in the uprisings many police officers put down their weapons in support of the regime. Again, it's not about removing the regime alone. It's also what comes after that. Because who's going to come after that? There are many extremist groups that want to have something to do with the future Iranian government. One of them being the MEK, Mujahideen Khalq. They're not a peaceful group at all. And I just think that we need to apply strategy when dealing with Iran, the regime in the West.